welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Cassie, also known as KnittaCass, and this is my YouTube channel where I share about the projects that I am making, the projects I'm drooling over. Once in a while there might be some crochet, some family life on my small farm in Vermont, some books I'm reading, and a spice of mental health. So grab your favorite beverage. I of course have my Pepsi, which is the equivalent to most people's coffee, and let's get started. So first of all, I do have a couple finished objects and they're washcloths. So I am up to 7 out of 12 washcloths. My goal this year is to knit 12 washcloths. This is my third year in a row that it has been my goal, and I think I can actually make it this year. I get most of my washcloth inspiration from the Kitchen Sink shop. If you go to her on Instagram, and I think it really is the Kitchen Sink shop. If it's different, I'll put it down below. And you sign up for her newsletter every month. At the beginning of the month, you will get a new washcloth pattern. They're very simple and really pretty. Last year's theme was on books, and this year's theme is on sweet treats. So one of my finished objects is her February pattern, which was the Linzer cookie. So this is my finished object. This is just some sugar and spice that I had laying around the house. It's got this really cute design, kind of hard to see. It makes a circle, and then the little peekaboo from the Linzer cookie. Super easy to make. It was also a lot of fun to make. My next washcloth I don't have beside me because we started using it already. And it's just a plain vanilla washcloth that I crocheted. So I'm pretty excited about that. It was a little bit of an impromptu cast on. I had a knitting Zoom that I was actually able to make, but it was during my son's physical therapy. So I wasn't sure I could make the Zoom meeting, so I didn't bring any projects with me. And so I asked the group, like, should I just go across the street to Joann's and grab something to cast on? And of course, in the Love and Stitches membership, we are a bunch of enablers, and of course everybody was like, yeah, go. So I went to Joann Fabrics, and I knew that I've been trying to work on washcloths, and it would be a really simple thing to do. So I grabbed this really fun washcloth yarn, I don't know what you call it, washcloth material, and it's like the regular washcloth, like this kind of washcloth stuff, but then it also has in certain spots like scrubby yarn. It was a little difficult for me to crochet because I'm still new to crocheting, so the part where it was scrubby was kind of thinner and then had a bunch of things kind of scraggling off of it. That part was a little difficult for me, but I did push through it, and the washcloth is super cute. So I will place a picture here for you. And I'm hoping to make another one. It came up really fast, and I love the fact that it has a little extra scrubby to it. That's it for finished projects, kind of. I have a finished object which is part of a larger project. So last podcast I introduced you to Sad Jack, and if you're new, welcome. This is Sad Jack. He's very sad. So I finished his shirt, and it's got some little like bell cuffs here, and it kind of flares out at the bottom. He doesn't have hands yet. Careful, Shadow. And then it's got this nice little collar. And the problem is, for some of you experienced knitters who probably have made dolls before, is that this pattern is written flat and then you seam it, and that bothers me. So I have been rewriting the pattern essentially, and it's not really my strong suit, so that's why it's not exactly equal. And I did some German short rows here to try to make them even for the collar, and they're a little bit wonky, but my son's not going to care. And then I finished his belt. So 2 finished objects, sort of, towards Sad Jack. So making progress a little bit at a time. My goal was to finish him a long time ago. He's been on my needles. I think this past March was the 3rd March. Yeah, it's bad. But I kind of lost my mojo because of having to rewrite the pattern in the round. And then when my dog ate him and gave him a little bit of a frontal lobotomy and ate his cute little goatee that I made. So little by little, he will get there, hopefully soon. I think it would be really fun to have him done before summer, and my son can kind of bring him down to the camper because he always likes some kind of stuffed animal or doll or something when we go down to the camper in the field. So hopefully I can get this done, and maybe that will be his fun little doll stuffed animal thing that he brings down. I've done nothing else on Sad Jack, so he's still technically a whip. I've got to make his boots, a sword and a sword sheath, some rings. I think that's it. Not positive. So I'm getting there. Hi, Shadow. Hello. Good morning. So this brings me to my actual whips. I'm still working on the Perfect Regia by Arne and Carlos. This is a pretty fun type of yarn. You just knit in stockinette and it gives you this really fun design. So it's a little more of a rustic yarn. So I'm making them for the winter time. So I'm not really in a rush. I was knitting them during some basketball games, but I started them late in the season and haven't really had something where I need mindless knitting, but I'm trying to save it for when I need mindless knitting. So I'm not sure it's going to get a whole lot of progress between now and the next podcast. I'm also still working on my pattern. This is a pair of socks, and it is in this really cute peekaboo bag by Mid Mitten Designs. It's super cute. It's got some sheep and some knitting needles and some hearts, and then the peekaboo front, and it's got this cute little sweater on needles. This pattern is still yet to be named, but it's got this cute two-row repeat pattern, which is pretty simple and mindless. I have done the heel flap and gusset. Actually, I'm still on the gusset piece. So I don't think I've made any progress since the last time. I don't remember the colorway, but it's a yarn by Fiber Stash Dye Works. They are local in Vermont. They're not very far from me, and I absolutely love her colorways. She has a huge variety of different types of dyeing and colors and like color combinations, and she's actually really sweet to talk to as well. So I really enjoy working with her yarn. I'm also working on my Colorwork sweater. This is by Dragon Horde Yarn or Dragon Horde Designs. She is my favorite knitwear designer, and I haven't knit very many things by her because the first couple of sweaters I made didn't fit quite the way I wanted them to, and so I've been a little intimidated to knit something that I see as completely fantabulous and mess it up and have it not fit me. I absolutely love her stuff. When I make her stuff, I really want it to fit me and be worth the amount of time it takes. So this has gotten a lot of progress. It is the Autumn Court sweater. It's inspired by a court of thorns and roses. Let's see if I can, it's got all these cute little stitch markers too. These little beaded ones are from the Corner of Craft. There's a cute little egg from Easter one year. There's a little envelope. I think that was for like a Valentine's. And then I've got these cute little animals. There's a sheep and a llama. And that is from, oh boogers. Something ew. I'll put it down below. Really cute. She makes polymer clay stitch markers. There's animals and food and flowers. I can't think of anything else, but a whole variety of them. So I highly recommend checking her out. I'll link her down below. I've got some plain kind of, I don't know what you call them, light bulb stitch markers, and these wooden ones that are Harry Potter inspired. So that's the snitch. Let's see here. And this one is from, oh goodness, this one's from Simply Serving DK. I absolutely love her as well. So she makes polymer clay. This one's kind of a simple one, but she makes really complex ones. I'll show you. So this is one of them. This is not one of her most complex designs. This is Butterbeer from Harry Potter. Wicked cute. Do I have another one from her on here? I do not. Let's see here. This is where I keep my stitch markers. It is a needle and hook tray, but my needles were, some of them were too big and it was just kind of cumbersome. So I use it to put my stitch markers in. This one's probably my favorite one from the Simply Serving. This is a bowl of chili. And if my camera will focus, it's got the cornbread, it's got shredded cheese, it's got the red onions. You can see a little bit of the beans. It's a really realistic bowl. It's got the bottom circle and all the ridges. And all of her knit markers, all of her stitch markers are very detailed and super professional looking. So that is Simply Servings. And I will put her information down below too. I highly recommend checking her out as well. And then Dragon Horde Yarn, or Dragon Horde Designs, is now starting to also make stitch markers. So I do have one here. This is a Ravenclaw sweater. So that is marking my beginning of round. Okay, back to the sweater. So this is the Autumn Court sweater. And I'm gonna try to make it so I can show you, so I can really show you the color work. So this is super gorgeous. So in this pattern, there is a color work chart, that I will finish. And once I finish the color work chart, it looks like that's where I'll split the sleeves. And then it's plain stockinette in this really gorgeous red colorway until near the waistband, and then there's some more color work, and then there's color work on the sleeves. So it's a color work sweater that's going to show off some color work skills of mine, but it also has some like straight mindless stockinette, which makes me very happy. Would be a little overwhelmed if it was an entire sweater in color work. The yarns that I'm using, this is Slutty Pumpkin, and this is a colorway by Dragon Horde Yarn. She is also one of my favorite yarn dyers. And that was in fingering weight. And then there's this one in sport weight. It's called O Wool, and the colorway is Northern Cardinal. It's super pretty. This is going to be the body of the sweater. And then this one I lost the ball band, but it's also by O Wool. It's a sport weight, but it feels a little thicker than the other sport weight. So it's messing with my gauge a little bit. So I'm just trying to be more mindful when I'm working on the color work with this piece of giving some, not necessarily wider floats, but floating a little more often. And I'll do the color work over here on the needle, and then kind of, when I push it over, stretch it a little bit. That way it kind of has time to settle. That's been working pretty well. At the top of my sweater, I didn't do that. So I'm going to have to I'm going to really have to aggressively block that piece. I do not know the colorway. It's this really cute. It's a peach, but also is kind of tannish. And this blue colorway, which is showing true to color. This is also by Dragon Horde Yarn. Do not have the ball band and do not know what colorway it is. And that is in fingering weight. In this giant scrappy bag by Daria Designs in New York, and I got it at Rhinebeck. It's got tons of pockets everywhere, and some of them are different sizes. I believe that's it for whips. I've really been trying to focus on that sweater and my design in Sad Jack, and I really haven't made a lot of time for knitting. Since my last podcast, I did a lot of knitting on washcloths and a lot of knitting on my sweater, my colorwork sweater, but I really haven't cast on any other projects or worked on any of my whips pretty much since my last podcast. And I'm just remembering now that I wanted to share what I'm wearing. So this is the Delphinium Vest. It is by My Charming Wool. It's got this really nice chunky cable on the side that goes all the way down. And then this kind of, I don't know, like a moss stitch maybe, which gives it this really nice texture. I made it out of some acrylic orange yarn and some mohair, which gives it this nice shine. It's super, super warm. I did mess up significantly. Oh no, I have a hole. I'll have to darn that today. Boogers. So I messed up significantly. I was worried it wasn't going to fit my bust. So I thought that I would be smart and add stitches, and then I had to cinch it in because it was not. And it's about waist length. So that is my Delphinium Vest by My Charming Wool. I'll also link her down below. You can find her on Instagram. In terms of business, I really haven't done anything. Been kind of slacking on my podcast and still slugging along on my knit design. I'm hoping today, no, that's unrealistic. I'm hoping soon, let's put it that way, that I can start casting on the other sock design that's really been playing in my head and start playing with it. I'm worried that if I cast that on, I'm not going to work on the one that's on the needles anymore. So I'm trying to find a balance between that. I really want the one on the needles to go out to testers soon. I'll probably send it to testers before I finish the second sock, which is pretty typical for me. So in terms of patterns that I'm drooling over, I haven't done this segment in a while, but I'm really wanting to make some tank tops or t-shirts for the summer. I'm really nervous about making it out of the right material where I'm not sweating to death and it's not stiff. I want it to be kind of drapey. So I will do, I'll insert some pictures here of the things that I am drooling over. So the first one is called Glaucopis. Not sure I'm saying it right. So it is a mix between sleeveless and tank top. It's a little bit thicker than a tank top, a little bit smaller than sleeveless, but it's got this nice drapey collar here. So I'll put a picture in. It was super pretty. Then there's the Azalea tee. So it's this nice tee and it's got some lace work on the bottom near the waist. It looks super simple and really elegant. And there is the Poetic Cosmopolite, not sure. I'll put that down below as well and put a picture in. And that is a tank top with some really detailed lace on the bottom and super, super pretty. I really, really want to make that one. And then lastly, there's this one called Penny Candy Tee. This is also really on the high priority of what I want to make. So it's got a striped pattern for most of the body of the t-shirt, but then it's got this really skinny lace on the sleeves and the neck and the hem. And oh my gosh, super, super pretty. And then of course I want to cast on, this is my SCO, which is should have cast on already. This is of course the Daisy Fields Market Tote. I am hoping to cast it on sometime this week. I'm really new to crochet, so I'm a little bit hesitant to do it. but I've met a lot of knitters and crocheters who have jumped right into projects rather than kind of doing the baby steps. So I'm hoping I can do that. There's a huge group in the Love and Stitches membership by Nitty Natty, and I could pick their brains. Luckily, there's also YouTube videos, so I think I can do it. My biggest obstacle will probably be reading the pattern, since I haven't really done a whole lot of crochet. And I'll also put a picture of that here. I'm not sure what color I'm going to make it out of, so that's also pretty exciting. I want it to get finished so I can throw in like a book or two when I'm going to the pool or down to the camper, or, you know, somewhere where I know I'm going to be away from home for a while, and I just want some quick little reading material in this adorable tote bag. So family life, nothing's changed. Everything is pretty stable, Mabel. So I'm going to take that and be happy with that. And then the most exciting part is the farm life in Vermont. So we live on a small family farm in Vermont, and we just had our lambing season. So we had some baby lambs. We had one of the mamas have 4 lambs. She is a fin sheep, so technically they can have anywhere from 2 to 6. Once in a while they'll get a single one, but usually they have twins or triplets. Last year she had triplets. So this year I can tell that her health is a little bit better also. So she had 4, which usually the more they have, the better health. A part of it's genetics, but part of it is also the better health that they're in. And these babies were bigger than last year. There was 2 rents. They both needed a little supplementation in the beginning. One was really struggling and needed to be syringe fed, so I thought we were going to lose him, but we didn't. We introduced him back to mama in like a day or so. She took him right on. He's been suckling, and he has gained so much weight and is super happy and doing well. The runt is the only black sheep that we have, and her name is Bama Lamb, after the Black Betty song. Some of us call her Black Betty, some of us call her Bama Lamb. She needed some bottle feeding in the beginning, and is actually still needing bottle feeding because we've tried introducing her back to mama, and we tried both times. The second time, mama was really mad and was actually kind of throwing her into the wall and being really aggressive towards her. So we did separate her from there. We kind of created an orphan lamb by feeding it and warming it in the house and her rejecting it. And we really struggled hard. We really wanted to make sure that she could still do sheepy, like a house sheep forever. It's not really good for them. So we did some work in the house, making sure that she could find the bottle rather than bringing it to her, making sure she was standing up when she was eating. Because in the beginning, she really needed to be held and really kind of babied. And then as she was getting stronger, we wanted to make sure she could do these things on her own. So she is now back at the barn. She's been there for a little while now. And my husband has set up this coffee can and kind of created like an X in it where we can put the baby bottle in there. And so she is drinking milk replacer. She's doing really well. She's been gaining a lot of weight. She's super happy. She's so adorable. And the cutest thing about this is one of my other ewes had a miscarriage early on in her pregnancy, and has always seemed a little jealous of the ewe who just lambed. And so when I put the ewe who was lambing in her little jug, which is a smaller place for the lambs, the other ewe, her name is Daisy, who was jealous, kept kind of peeking in and checking out what was going on. And so when we brought the orphan lamb over, we put her in the bigger place with Daisy, and Daisy has adopted her. So Daisy doesn't have any milk, of course, but Daisy has protected her and follows her around, kind of nudges her where she needs to go, like nudges her towards the food and the water and the grain. At first she kept kind of reminding her what their bottle was. It's really adorable and so sweet that she has a mentor and isn't completely on her own. The babies are doing amazing. They're growing. They'll be a week old this Thursday, and they have gained so much weight and just are so adorable, super playful. I will definitely put a lot of photos in here and maybe a video or two of just some cute little shenanigans from the babes. So we technically we let the people who are going to buy them name them. However, we tend to separate them by giving them little nicknames while they're here. So the biggest one, we call him Big Boy. He's adorable. He's the biggest one. And then the next biggest one is a lady, and she's got this thick tuft of hair that looks like bangs, and so I just lovingly call her Bangs. Then the next one is a ram. He was one of the 2 runs, and he was the one who needed to be syringe fed, so we were really worried about him. And my husband and my youngest, Weston, decided to call him Wilbur because Wilbur was the runt and ended up, growing well and becoming a show pig. And so they were just kind of being really hopeful that he would pull through, and he did. And then, of course, I told you already, the youngest runt is Bama Lamb. We also have chicks. I bought 6 chicks, 2 Rhode Island Reds, and 4 Bantams. And unfortunately, we lost one of the Rhode Island Reds in the beginning. It was acting weird since I had gotten him from Tractor Supply, or gotten her from Tractor Supply. So I think she might have been sickly to begin with. But so we have 1 Rhode Island Red, 4 Bantams. And then my mother-in-law decided that she wanted some ducks and a couple turkeys. So we now have 2 ducks. They're so adorable, and they have grown astronomically. So I'll also put some photos of them in here. My chickens have also grown a lot. They're trying to do some flying. They're getting some really nice feathering and details. And then we have 2 turkeys and 2, I don't know what they are. She got these cute little like black and white chickens, and they're super adorable also. So going to the barn has been a lot of fun with all the littles there. It's definitely spring in the air. Unfortunately, it has been raining so much, and it's really bothering me just because I want to put the ewes and the lambs outside so they can get more fresh air and really get used to being outside, but it's so soggy that I don't want mama's bag dragging in the mud, and I don't want the littles being kind of soaked and wet. So I'm hoping it'll clear up soon. Books I'm reading Things We Never Forgot by Lucy Score, and I am more than 3/4 of the way through it. Once it got to a certain point, I just couldn't put it down. It's really good, and it's got not necessarily a lot of character development, but it's got a lot of appeal to it. So I think that would be a good book to check out. It is part of a series. I think the next book is, actually, I don't even know what the next book is. I'm also, of course, still reading the 4th book of the Outlander series. I've maybe read like 20 pages since the last time I talked to you. I'm not in a rush to read it, and it's such a relaxing book, and I do a lot of my reading at night that I typically fall asleep while reading it. I just started a new book also. It's called All Hallows by Christopher Golden, and it's about it describes it as having 2 families on the same street that are kind of going through some turmoil inside their homes that people are not aware of. During the meantime, there's these group of children who show up in these vintage masks and are saying they're running from, I think they called it the Cunning Man. And so we're trying to figure out where they came from, who the bad guy is, and if everybody's in danger. So I just started it. It is pretty intriguing so far. I'm hoping that it will continue to be as suspenseful as it has been so far. That is it for all the things that I'm reading. So that brings us to our spice of mental health. I always try to do a little bit of some mental health in the end of my podcast. My homework for you is to nourish your body. So like I say a lot, you cannot fill from an empty cup. And so you really need to make sure that you take care of yourself. And so the homework for this podcast is to do something to nourish your body. So typically that means doing things that your body needs, getting plenty of sleep, drinking plenty of water, eating nutritious meals, and getting some exercise, doing some movement. I know that the idea of doing all of them might seem a little overwhelming, which does for me sometimes. So I would say pick one of those. Are you going to focus on getting more sleep, or are you going to focus on drinking more water? Are you going to focus on eating better? And it doesn't have to be like a strict, I'm only going to eat this or I'm not going to eat this, but just being more mindful of, hey, I should probably add a little fruit today, or I skipped breakfast. I really shouldn't skip breakfast, those kind of things. So I just want you to nourish your body. And if you want to put down below what your goal is, what are you going to do to nourish your body, that would be super great. And I want to say thank you for all my new subscribers. My numbers have gone up tremendously, and I'm just so happy you're here. Hope you enjoy it. And thank you for all my returning viewers. I also really appreciate your support and love. I hope that you have happy crafting, and I'll see you next time. Bye!